Well, we went into North Africa uh, to do battle with Rommel there. He had superior tanks, and we didn't have enough of them. Uh, and we got beat up pretty bad for a while. Uh, Finally, England come in. Uh, they had a lot more experience than our GIs did with war because they had been fighting since I think '39, and so they kind of pulled our irons out of the fire for us. Uh, but we learned Americans are not slow on the uptake. We learned, and we became better and better warriors as time went along. We built more and more tanks so that Germany could brag all they wanted that they had the best tanks in the world and their tanks were better than ours, but their tanks weren't better than 29 American tanks. Let me tell you that. Not only that, their tanks weren't any good to invade England because they couldn't pick them up and lift them on a boat and get them ashore. They were too big and too heavy. Our tanks were much lighter, and yeah, they were subject to being hit with a shell and destroyed. But we could load them on a ship and bring a whole shipload of them to England, and in preparation for much later on D-Day. Well, the war. You would think the war would be a bad time for Americans, but it wasn't. Uh, we were having fun. We were making a lot of money, uh, and with good wartime jobs. Women were working in the factories, and they were making good money. They made as much as the men did, and uh, and there was no money. You couldn't buy a car. You couldn't buy a washing machine. Everything had to be repaired. But you had plenty of money. You had a big bank account that built all during the war because you didn't have any place to spend it. Well, uh, the war was a romantic time for Americans. Uh, the music, the music was romantic, and there was always Spike Jones who made a lot of fun of the Germans and the Japanese and the Russians and everybody else. Uh, and we were beating the heck out of uh, the Japanese and China with our P-40 airplanes and our old barnstormer pilots that uh, could outfly the Japanese coming and going, who just didn't have quite as much uh, experience in the ways of barnstorming as Americans did. So we did pretty daggone good there with that. The Flying Tigers were badly outnumbered, but they held their own.